All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Canopus Chats with JD Price. I am so grateful for your participation by watching my show and subscribing and liking. And I'm excited about today's guest who's joining me. And so I don't know if you know what N.E.D stand for, but I'm hoping that by the end of our conversation, you'll understand the power in N.E.D. Please help me welcome Miss Sheron Bennett.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hello, and welcome.
Thank you.
So, Sheron, thank you for joining me here at Canopus Chats. As you know, in our segment, I have different guests coming in and sharing their professional experiences, the path that they have taken, and some of the challenges or triumphs that they experience along the way. And as a professional, I just wanted to know, what were your aspirations when you were growing up?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be asked to share my story. When I was growing up, so I had a couple of things. At one point, I wanted to be a preacher.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I got older, I wanted to actually do budget analysis for the United States government. So I wanted to major in economics, but it was along the lines of finance and economics related.
Mm-hmm. So did you actually end up in that area? So I don't think you're preaching, but in terms of your major and career path, where did you
Okay, so, we all know the saying, if you want to know that there's a God, like, make plans. So when I was in high school, I was adamant that I wanted to become a budget analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom, she was an assistant trader at an investment bank, Payne Weber at the time, it's UBS now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would visit her on the trading floor. Okay. And it was exciting, really good lunches. So I said, okay, I want to major in finance, but always wanted to be on the analytical side.
Mm-hmm.
I went off to school, to Penn State. I was there for a year and a half, and then my mom passed away. I came back to New York and continued with school. I was still a finance. So when I was at Penn State, I was an econ major.
I see.
With the goal in mind to become either a financial analyst leading to be a budget analyst, right?
Right.
And then when I came home, I thought, I'm going to do finance because that seems like I could it's along the same lines and I can get a job right out of school.
Okay.
So I was going to school full-time, working full-time, and I was very aware that on-campus recruiting was going to be my path to getting into a company without having to go into the general pool of applicants when I left school. So I did a lot of on-campus recruiting, and lucky for me, I think there was a big diversity push with the big 5 accounting firms.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I was a finance major, I got an interview to just a general interview with Ernst & Young.
Right.
And I ended up getting a position with them, and I took it because Ernst & Young, prestigious.
Of course.
A job straight out of school, right? So I knew October 1st, I'd be starting there.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that time as well, in the finance world, there was a lot of turmoil going on. There was a lot of embezzling. There was the junk bond crisis. So that market was a little bit shaky. So I ended up at Ernst & Young in their expatriate tax group. Mm-hmm. And I've been in tax ever since.
Wow. So you didn't go back. So, sorry about the passing of your mom, but to see how you didn't lose track of your professional goals. And so while you made some modifications along the way and you had some personal adjustments, you strategically maneuvered your way around transitioning from college into the workforce.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
you know, it's important for students who are in college to understand the different routes that you can take and the
Mm-hmm.
paths that you can take to
Right.
lead you into employment. So you assessed the competition in the general population and
Right.
said, use the resources available to you on campus through those recruitment
Definitely.
sessions. I think that's excellent advice. So now here you are on the professional landscape. You're immersed in taxes, and I'm sure you've been doing this for many, many years.
Many, many years.
Many, many. So here you are, a young professional, doing what it is that you want to do. And then you receive a news, unfavorable news about your health. Speak to me a little bit about what that information was and how it impacted you as a person.
Okay, so in November of 2005, I was going through 2005. The doctor, I felt something that didn't seem right, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I'm young. I don't have any history of this thing. Why am I worried? And I wasn't worried. I wasn't concerned. But my aunt, who's in Jamaica, she kept saying to me, have you gone to the doctor? Have you gone to the doctor? And I said, I'm going to wait until after busy season, because that's the life of a tax accountant, right? I'm in a deadline intensive industry. So I'm always putting things off because of the deadline. So finally I went. I had a lump in my left breast. Finally, I went to the doctors and had a series of, the different steps, got to a biopsy. So I took the test, I did the biopsy the week of Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I came back on Monday, the Monday after Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
my doctor calls and he says, I have your results, but I'm going to need you to come into the office.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, Doc, I don't even need, Dr. Drucker, I don't even need to come into the office because I know what it is you're going to tell me. And in the immediate moment,
Mm-hmm.
I broke down. It was very hard for me. And I just said, I don't want to die, right? And then I remember I called my husband, and then we went straight to the doctors, got all of the film, and started on my treatment journey. Met with a team of doctors at Beth Israel and began my care in January of 2006.
Okay. So here you are, a professional, enjoying what it is that you want
Right.
to do, and you're getting this. You first of all, you've noticed the change, and you
Right.
feel something different,
Yeah.
different and unusual. How long did you wait before you actually contacted your doctor?
Before, when I felt the lump at first,
Mm-hmm.
I would say I waited 10 months
Wow.
because I didn't think anything of it. I had similar issues before, but they were benign, nothing to worry about. So
I
in
see.
my mind, right, I'm young, I'm invincible.
Mm-hmm.
This can't possibly be happening to me. It never even occurred to me, right, that I could have something that was malignant. It never dawned on me. So I was just going in matter of fact. And it wasn't until, okay, in October, busy season's done, that I actually went to the doctor to have it checked out.
Okay, so how did this information alter not only your personal life, but also your professional life? What changed? Walk me through this process.
Okay, so it was a very surreal experience. When I talk about this story, or about this time in my life, I've never felt more connected to God, nature, just being on the highest spiritual level that I've ever experienced. Because for me, my survival was non-negotiable. My son hadn't turned 2 yet. He was going to turn 2 in April. And I remember I had a conversation, like I have conversations with God. I kind of tell him what I want. So I said, you know, I am going to live. I'm going to live. And I was very proactive with my care. I vetted my team. I did a lot of research because I wanted to be responsible for my care. I wanted to be active. I didn't want just to be a passive person going through the health system. I tried to go on every day, especially for my son. He wouldn't have noticed, right? Because he's one and a half at the time. But I tried to just maintain some semblance of normalcy. But I always had it in the back of my mind that I am going to do this. And I blocked a lot of things out. So for that time, my entire focus was on being present to get better. There is a woman who I grew up with, and she's a preacher. Her name is, she's Sister Maynard, Sherman Maynard. And I remember she was coming to New York for a series of sermons. And my cousin said, "Are you coming?" And I said, "Yeah." And I had a conversation, but something was leading me to church. And it was getting late, and I decided that I'm going to go. And when I get to the church, I said, "God, you brought me here for something. I need you to show me what that something is." And, you know, as she's preaching towards the end, she starts calling out names. And then she says my name. And I was like, okay, so you brought me here. This was the reason you brought me here. And I could feel the energy in my body. But I was never discouraged, because I just had to keep telling myself, I'm going to beat this thing. I'm going to live. I remember the Christmas before I had my surgery. I was decorating my Christmas tree, and I looked at my son and I said, you know, this really could be the last Christmas that I spend with this kid. But I blocked it out of my mind. And certain things I never said aloud because I didn't want to put it out into the universe. So I blocked it out of my mind, and I'm like, we're going to do this day to day. And I had some really supportive people, the people that I allowed in, because I didn't allow everybody in. I actually lost one of my very best friends because of this. I didn't take a lot of calls because cancer is one of these things where, you know, what do you tell people? You're going to tell the same story to every person who calls, every person who wants to talk to you about it. So, you know, I kept my circle small. And the people, I didn't want to hear from anybody who would say, well, you know, can you think of anything that you did? You know, maybe God is trying to use you for something. I didn't want any of those people in my life. And so, because again, my focus was just on, you know, getting better. And I always, when I started to feel sorry for myself, I would say, I'm not any different from the person who's sitting next to me or anyone else. I said, because we're all headed in the same direction. I'm just more aware of my mortality than someone else.
Got it.
And I made it my point not to think about how long I may be here. I made it my point not to worry about that. I decided to just take it one day at a time. And my signature phrase was, well, you know, I could go outside and get hit by a bus.
You have to see the bright side, right?
This thing even kills me. So I, you know, just took it one day at a time. And I allowed, you know, my inner voice to lead me.
Right.
I mean, there's no other way I can describe it. I just listened to all the messages that were coming my way because I was so focused and so intense on and so in the moment. And I can say that I've never gotten back to that level of focus or spirituality, because it's something that you just can't imagine, being told that, wow, something like this is happening.
That's a lot, and it seemed as if you went through many processes in terms of your mental state and the
Yes.
thoughts that governed your actions.
Yes.
And obviously you're here today, 15 years later, 14
Yes.
years later, to talk about it. And I wanted to ask you two questions before I get to my other part of my questions. But when I research people who have survived, sometimes they participate in groups where they get support. Did you consider that, or you had just decided it would just be the family and the small group of people whom you were interacting with?
Well, for me, I had a lot of time at nights because my husband worked at night at the time, and I did a lot of research. I was on the internet continuously reading different boards for cancer patients who had the same type of cancer as I did, reading about young people because I was really young at the time. And that's how I got my strength. I read books. Some of the books I read, my girlfriend, she sent me a book called Sometimes Bad Things Happen to Good People, which is a really good book. There was another book, and I think this was the name of it, The Victoria's Secret Catalog Keeps Coming. And the premise of that book is, okay, so your breasts are gone. The world doesn't end. Victoria's Secret doesn't cross your name off the list and say, we're not going to send her any catalogs because she doesn't need any of our bras. No, life goes on and you have to go on with it. So I'm the type of person who deals with a lot of things in solitude because I like to be in tune. I don't like too much distraction if I'm going through something. So for that in particular, I was doing a lot of research. And then at the time, about a year before, I learned that my younger cousin, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And she had it since she was 2, but she was in Jamaica. Nobody diagnosed it. She got it diagnosed here when she was 19.
Wow.
And her strength, I drew from her because she was just phenomenal through the whole thing. She went through surgery. The cancer had spread to her spine. She went through surgery, radiation, but she was never unhappy. She was always pushing, always going for a year for treatment, right? And I really drew on her strength. It's like, it's like, if she can do it, then I'll just try and push through. So I didn't do any groups. And I had a really good team of doctors. My research nurse was she was very good. I could talk to her a lot. And I tell you, everyone says go to Sloan. I went to Beth Israel. It was the best decision that I made at that time.
Awesome. So here you talk about your spouse, and your baby's still young, so is not really aware of any health changes. For you, of course, you think about the possibilities of not participating in his life beyond where you are, right? But for your partner, because sometimes when we talk to survivors and people who have experienced these types of illnesses, we talk to the individual, but we don't necessarily include the partner. How did your spouse handle this? Because here it is, you had a bulldozer type of faith, a thought process that said, I'm going to be victorious, I'm going to win. How did he handle it? Was it a conversation? Was he quiet, or maybe a different response?
I would say I knew it affected him because he actually talked to Carl about it. I think that's how our friends found out about it. And he was talking to some other people. I think a friend of his had gone through the same thing and lost his wife. So I think it was challenging for him in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
He was a wreck during when I had to go in for surgery, but he was very supportive during my my treatments.
Mm-hmm.
He was there to pick me up. So we didn't really make it a topic of discussion,
Mm-hmm.
but he was, he was there in his own way, probably talking to his friends or his sisters more than he was talking to me, just to make sure that he didn't, make me feel bad about anything. But he was there during my treatments.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to tell you that this diagnosis is a very lonely one,
Mm-hmm.
because even if your partner's with you, all of your treatments you're going through by yourself. So you go to chemo, and even if someone comes with you,
You have to wait.
you're going through it by yourself. And when you go through your scans,
Mm-hmm.
you're there alone with your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So the most someone can do is to be there, to get you tea when you're nauseous, or, pick you up from chemo, and you just know that, and not be treated any differently, right? Because I didn't want to be treated like I was sick,
Mm-hmm.
So
So
he was.
did you continue to work up to a certain point, or
No,
did you
I
stop?
did not work at all throughout treatment. I had at the time an aggressive diagnosis, and there was a research study going on, and I happened to be lucky enough to be selected for the research study. So my treatment was very aggressive. So I had 2 types of chemo, which were very aggressive, very damaging to the body. And then I had Herceptin, which is now out of study, and it's prescribed for lots of cancer patients. I was in that study. And so the treatments were really difficult. So it's not something that I could have gone to work for. Luckily for me, my company had a very good disability insurance. So I pretty much had 80% of my salary while I was home. I think I was home for 11 months. And then the following, I had another year of treatment after that. I did those. I took like a day or 2 off from work in order to do that. So my treatment was pretty long.
Now, we talk about life and its unexpectancies. When you're young, you think you're invincible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking about progressing, moving up the corporate ladder, and just advancing professionally while attaining the American dream.
Right.
What information, based on your experience and the journey you have taken, what would you say to a young woman who is pursuing their profession and might get some unfavorable health report? What kind of advice or information would you want to leave with them? Words of wisdom, maybe.
I would say that put yourself first. You're not irreplaceable. That if you stay in a job and you put your health behind you, if something happens, they'll replace you in a minute. They'll replace you in a second. And that if you're diligent, if that journey is yours, you might have a pit stop along the way, which is an illness. Take care of yourself, and just know that you can always pick up the baton, so to speak, when you're well. But without your health, you cannot function. And I'll just insert a story here. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer and I was out for a long time, my really good friend at work, she's a senior manager at my job, she would come and visit me.
Mhm.
And when I got back to work, I remember seeing her and she wasn't well. She said she had a sinus infection and the doctor prescribed her medicine and her face was swollen up. And when I looked at her again, just that heightened sense of awareness, when I looked at her, a voice said to me, she has cancer and she doesn't know it. I don't know how it came to me, but I knew it from sitting there. And that weekend, she went in like something happened. She was working. She wouldn't go to the doctor because she was working. It's our busy season.
Mhm.
And she sat in an office. She got so disoriented. She sat in an office from the Friday, no, from the Saturday till the Monday.
Wow.
When she left, when her husband came to he was finally able to be let in, because everybody comes back to the office on Monday. She went to the doctors. They did an MRI. She was diagnosed with leukemia. She never made it back into the office. She died 3 months later,
Mm.
right there.
Mm.
And all she kept saying is, "Oh, I'll take care of it. It's too busy now. I've got to get this client work out." And I saw that, and I it broke my heart for her, because she had to have been sick for a long time, you
Mhm.
know. But in this particular moment, even though she was feeling so awful, she just had to get the work done, and it didn't matter, you know, because that was it for her.
Wow. So take care of yourself. And I guess
I
it's
take care of
not age, it's not relegated to a particular age. And I think
No,
wherever we are on the spectrum in terms of
yeah,
the age, we are we are mandated to take
yeah,
good care of ourselves.
yeah,
And, when I study the millennials, sometimes they look back at their parents and they see how many hours they put in and
yeah.
their work-life balance is non-existent. They don't want that. They want,
No,
if they want more flexibility, they want opportunities where they can choose the environment, choose what's good for them. And so
right.
sometimes we may look at them and say, oh, they're so flighty, they don't stay long. But at the end of the day, they want something more because they've seen what
Yes,
the older group has gone through and
right.
how many hours they put in. I think what you said here is so poignant for all of us to listen to really take care of ourselves
Yes.
and not wait and defer it for another time and another
Yeah.
time and never finding the right time. When I looked at stories or sites that talk about support group, one of them I saw was Share, and Share is a support group for a cancer survivor.
Okay.
And what most people look for when they go to their physician at the end of treatment and a period of observations are those three letters N.E.D. Are you familiar with N.E.D? So
Yes. Oh, how could I not be? How could I not be? Yes. No
right, so
evidence.
do you remember what those three letters stands for,
No
what they
evidence.
stand for rather?
No evidence of disease.
Wow. And so here you are today, right?
Yes. Yes.
With
Here I
your
am.
file at your doctor's office with those three letters.
Yes. Yes.
And how does that help you to live differently? Or does it?
Um. So I live my life. I live honestly, one day at a time.
Mhm.
I I plan my career. I plan my kids' education, what they're going to do. But in terms of estimating how long
Mhm.
I may have, I don't do that. I mark every milestone is a major thing for me. My son's graduating from high school, hopefully in June, and we're gonna have a party, right? I'm gonna have a party because the party is for me, because
Mhm.
I didn't think I would be here for it. But so I just one day at a time, and I try to not be try to manage stress,
Mhm.
and I diligently follow up with every doctor's appointment. It's tedious. It's hard, but I'm very present when it comes to my health.
Awesome. Sheron.
Sharon, same thing.
I am so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
And empowered by what you have shared, your tenacity in the
Thank
middle
you.
of it all, in the midst of it all. And now you're back on track,
Mm-hmm.
you know, supporting your family, enjoying your children's growth and development, and still on the professional pathway,
Mm-hmm.
doing what it is that you
Right.
still enjoy doing. I just want to say thank you for those nuggets that you shared with us. And if we
Thank you.
remember nothing else, we are remembering to take care of ourselves and
Right.
don't put off anything that look not significant,
Right.
put it to the side and just wait. Or if we notice any changes and it's consistent, that we should really act and be proactive,
Yes.
and not passive. So I think
Right.
those are wonderful words. And I hope that as you continue your path, that when you see your physician, those 3 letters still stand.
Thank you.
N-E-D.
D. Right. Thank you. I almost forgot.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
You
This
are
was great.
welcome. Well, you're welcome. Thank you for being a part of the Canopus experience. So everyone, thank you for watching, for liking, subscribing, and just commenting. And I hope that you continue to listen to these stories that will inspire you to do more today. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.